Okay, I believe I am up on both Facebook and YouTube. It's good to be back. Good to be with you this evening. And I am Don Parnell, and it's March the 9th, 2025, Sunday at 8:30 p.m. I'm in Dayton, Ohio, and this is another podcast session of Spiritual Energy. And you can find us at our website, spiritualenergy.net. And we're on all the social media. Almost all of it is Independent Thinker, Tori Alianza, Independent Thinker 1954, but it's all on YouTube, Twitter, or X, and all the different places. So you're welcome to enjoy it with us wherever you find what you like. Enjoy it, and we will be happy you did. If you are on YouTube looking at our YouTube channel, please, while you're there, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a penny. It really helps us. And hit that subscribe button, and whatever you watch, like and comment on it. And that really helps us also. It builds a lot of things extra that we can do on YouTube and helps us out a little bit financially. So we appreciate that. So this evening we have been talking. This is our sixth one, and it's on the Aquarian alignment. And I wanted to talk this evening on part 6 of the alignment, and I titled it "A Greater Earth Unveiling." We know that at the ending of the Bible was completed, the entire Bible, that there would come a day of apocalypse. So many people that, went so far out of proportion because John used so many symbols that they thought the apocalypse was when these things were going to manifest themselves out of midair, and nuclear wars and explosions and everything else. But if you just look up the word apocalypse, it is it of secrets and exposing. It exposes or brings an exposition of Christ on the scene, and it exposes and brings an exposition of the man of sin on the scene. And so we get to see both sides of the coin. And we are in that time of apocalypse right now, and it is happening all around us. So in this little podcast, we will open discoveries about spirituality and its arena. Numerous changes occurred during the transitional age, beyond the seals on the backside of the Bible. And it's time we focused on those things. The angel of the Lord dealt with me some years ago, around 2020. And I was expecting a lot of other things to happen, and it almost went a totally different direction than what I was expecting. And the angel of the Lord came and dealt with me and said to watch the arenas. There's 8 of them. And he told me to watch them, and we'll get into what those are. And he told me to watch them. The arenas are being shaken down now, and we as spiritual healers are using our energy, frequency, and vibration to bring healing for the next steps, for our next steps into a greater earth, into a greater realm. And we are moving through that transition and that period right now. And the earth itself, and we'll get into the science arena and the spiritual arena and the other 6 right on down the line. We will get into those and we will talk about them. But what we see happening is I had several people as we were going through the first few of the Aquarian alignment that said, Brother Parnell, could you explain just a little bit more? They said, we understand what you're saying, but it'd help us so much if you explain just a little bit more and give us a little more understanding on the science and spirituality of the dimensions. And so I'll take just a moment. And also the questions that came to me, or the comments that came to me, were about the ending of the world. And I mentioned so many times how that the spirit would move and end things, and then he would say, I'm not going to do that again. And why was that happening? So I've talked just a touch about that. And so as far as the 7 dimensions, they are the major dimensions. Believe me, there are millions of dimensions out there. They have found 4 and 5 planes in the Earth dimensions. Of course, we know of the 7 dimensions. We know of the 7 spiritual dimensions. We know of the 5 physical dimensions. We know of so many different dimensions. And so what I'm going to talk about for just a moment to help you out is, for decades upon decades and even a couple of centuries, science and spirituality has kind of ran along together. And space being a dimension, matter being a dimension, and time being a dimension, and then technology or communication, that being a dimension, unrest, unknown, uncertainty, hell, whatever you might want to call it, another dimension. And then there is the theophany, which is logic, it is word, it is the forming of a spirit that is unseen, and of course the unseen spirit being the Great Spirit himself. So when you run those, and then what I did is I took some science and I looked at those 7 major dimensions: space, matter, time, communication, unrest, theophany, and spirit. And I took those and I moved them over into the field of science. And I said, you know how you have a layover sometimes? And well, I took that. They take these old maps and they lay the old maps or new maps over the old maps and try to figure out exactly what was where. Well, I took these dimensions and I moved them over into and kind of laid them over top of one another and took a look at them in the same alignment. And it really came out well, because space, of course, is empty. And we think of space, we always did, the emptiness out here. But when you take a look at the way science looks at it, it is atoms and neutrons and protons and all of these different things. And they have, every single one of them averages out to about 97% of them are empty. And so I took space and I said, okay, if we took space and we just called it emptiness, if we called it unknowing, if we called it not yet manifested, emptiness was the best word I could come up with in my own mind to help me catch, and it's emptiness. And I'm going to go back through something here in a second, but then the second one that I laid over top of matter was elements. And there are so many elements that are not only natural, but they are unseen elements. They are spiritual, if you want to call them that. You say, well, I don't know of any unseen elements. Well, do you see the oxygen that is floating through your room right now, and you're breathing it? Do you see it? Do you see hydrogen? Are you looking at it? Can you say, oh, that over there is hydrogen? It's right over there in the corner? No, it's unseen. It goes, you can take ice and it's visible. You can take liquid water, it's visible, and you can take gases, vapor, that water. It goes in. Did you know that the sun right now is lifting so many hundreds of thousands of gallons of water per second into the atmosphere? Do you see it? Do you see that going up and forming? You don't see it. So that's what I'm saying is it's the elements are 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 filling up, but are unseen and unknown. And Paul said those things that are unseen are eternal. It's an emptiness and elements, and then time. Of course, uh, they think of it as a measurement, and I used to always say that time is a measurement, and in a sense, it is. But listen, time is consciousness. There has to be a consciousness to measure. So measuring is a tool of that consciousness. And when we realize that, then you take space as emptiness, matter as elements, and time as consciousness. And then, of course, the fourth dimension, technology or communication. Um, you can look down wherever you're sitting at, and you can look at the wires, or you can look at the cell phone, and you can say, well, I can see that, but you don't see the ether. You don't see the etheric wave that's actually making that little thing in your hand do its work all day long. You don't see Wi-Fi. You don't see all those things. It's also a dimension that has both seen and unseen in it. And communication, if you take that emptiness and elements and consciousness, and then you move into that realm of communication, into that dimension of communication, then you have discovery. You begin to discover all these things that you can do with it, that you can learn with it, that you can fill up your consciousness with, that you can fill it up with knowledge and understanding. And so what we're doing is we're making a greater earth, and we're unveiling a greater earth than we had in the beginning, because we understand the emptiness, the elements, consciousness, and we're discovering things. And then that fifth one, unrest, or whatever you want to call it, but it's unrest or hell or carnality, is what I said when I took a good look at it and I overlaid it. It's carnality. And the theophany is word, it's logic. In the beginning was the word, the theophany. And the word, the logic, was with God, and the word was God. Later on in 1 and 14, it says that it became flesh and dwelled among us. And so we see that word and logic. And then, of course, the spirit is the life, the being, the spirituality, whatever you might want to call it. So when you lay those on top of one another, for centuries, we want to push science out of the way and say it's of the devil, it's demonic, it's atheistic, it's all of these things, and we would push them out of the way. And so therefore we kept science and religion kind of split apart. Well, in this day, I see science and spirituality, or science, these things coming together and becoming one. And the new generation of men and women that are out here are recognizing that, and they're realizing there is really something to the unseen worlds, and there is really something to spirituality, and they're beginning to realize that science um, can't only prove physical things, but now with the technology we have, we can prove things that aren't just physical, but things that are unseen. So that was what I was saying about the dimensional worlds, was kind of doing an overlay and realizing that when you blend the two together, science and and those dimensions, spirituality, when you blend those two together, you kind of come up with different names that better contribute or attribute or represent where we're going today, because Aquarius, the age, needs a realignment. Many of those words that we use just don't fit anymore. And so then the other thing that I was talking about was the worlds that, and I said, excuse me, I said the Spirit Himself had all knowledge. It had all understanding. It nothing was created that wasn't created by Him. All things created by Him and for Him, and without Him there was nothing created. That's the Great Spirit. That's the pillar of fire. Now, the Adamic world, what the pillar of fire did was he began humanity at whatever stage. Um, I think that Moses used Adam. I think most of the book of Genesis, that first 2 or 3 chapters, is all symbolic form of what took place and what takes place every time a creation happens, whether it's botany or animal or human or planet or universe or whatever it might be. It's the same pattern that moves things out of the unseen into the seen world, into manifestation. So when we look at that, what I'm saying is the Spirit had all knowledge. You can't come up with something that the Spirit had not already had knowledge of. But the issue is not having the experience of it. Now, it could, because it is omnipotent, omnipresent, all those things, it could move forward through its mind, and its mind is reality. It could move backward through its mind because its mind is reality, and it could go either way on an eternal timeline, if you want to call it that, an eternal consciousness, and it could see what was going to happen, but still the experience of it wasn't there. And so what I was saying was, when humanity started, it was for us, all of us, we are the Great Spirit. It was for all of us to be like, thinking about it just a second, to be like satellites, um, to be like tentacles, to be the senses of the Spirit. The senses being see, taste, feel, smell, hear, memory, conscience, reason, affection, imagination, love, emotion, faith. We were to be those things for the Spirit. That was our part of being the Spirit, was to come here and to feel those things. Now, we've seen the Adamic world end in because of murder, Cain, and because of uh, disobedience, if you want to call it that. It set it up so it would happen, but it was disobedience. And we seen that Adamic world end. And when it ended, it put us into another world where we could gather more experience. We couldn't gather any death in Eden. We couldn't gather any redemption in Eden. We couldn't gather any of those things, the emancipation, we couldn't gather sin. We couldn't gather the joy of not having sin. We didn't know what the law was. All of those things, when we moved ourselves out of the Garden of Eden into the next world, we began to draw in information about death, sorrow, anger. You could just go on and on and on. Go read Galatians 5:20, and it tells you all of those things. And we begin to be the tentacles of those feelings. 5:18 and 19, joy and peace and love and goodness and kindness and faith and long suffering and meekness. And then it turns around and says, anger and jealousy and strife and envy. We begin to all of that in so that could process that and understand it by feeling. And come the end of that age, we'd come through long lineage. We come up to Enoch, and we come up to Noah, and the Spirit was saying, this world is no good. This is not good. This is not what I wanted. This is no good at all. Noah, build an ark. Take 120 years. Tell the people what you're going to do. Build an ark and get in it. And I'm going to move you and your family over. Well, when all of that happened, of course, the Spirit had taken in enough feeling and enough of those senses that there's no doubt in my mind when that massive amount of death and so forth took place, that it touched the heart of the Spirit. It touched the inner being. You can't see that much. I mean, I watched a few of the wildfires, and I watched some of the films of Ukraine and Russia, and the dead bodies just laying everywhere and in graves and just piled on top of one another. My heart was, I mean, when I watched it, I thought, this has got to stop. And that the Holy Spirit had those same feelings. Because when they came out of the ark, he repented that he did it. And he said, I'll never destroy the earth like this again. And then we come to the end of the law. And the Holy Spirit had put the law into action and had placed that in the second world, so to speak. And when he placed that there, then man couldn't live up to it. And there was a constant slaughtering, 50,000 here, 100,000 there, a nation here, nation there. They couldn't live up to the law, the commandments that came from the law. Paul said, even though they were life, they came from life, they were death under the human race. It was death. That's what the commandments were. And so by the time that another few thousand years went by, the Holy Spirit, the Great Spirit, Christ himself, humanity had gathered in enough information that the Spirit said, you know what? It didn't work over here in the Garden of Eden. Things came up. It didn't work when I brought them out into redemption. It didn't work when I brought them into law. It didn't work when he come down through here and he said, the only way I can get this done is to create one body of myself and then go into that body and make it the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and then take that and sacrifice it and make this sacrifice so that humanity is at least without sin, and I, as the Spirit, will not see sin anymore. That's what Christ was about. He removed all the sin. Have you read the books that Paul wrote and the different ones? He removed all sin. It's gone. And so then what does man do in his own human knowledge and everything else? What does he do? He drops right back in again and begins to come down through the 7 church ages in the female relationship and doing all those things. And he travels all the way down through, gets to the end, and he says, you know, I need to open up these seals and reveal of the people in the earth, and I need to reveal humanity, and I need to reveal that humanity is completely redeemed. And he sends a prophet, he opens the seals, he does all those things, and he moves us over into, after Jesus Christ and his ending, after the church ages and its ending, he moves us over into another world, and humanity has evolved again. And what world did he move us into? He moved us into a spiritual world of healing. I call it divine humanity. Some people call it love divine. Some people call it spirituality. Some don't know what to call it. But I believe that humanity has been Christ all the way through, reaching out and touching and feeling and pulling all of it in. And now I believe that we are in a divine humanity. We are there now. We are in, after the opening of those seals, the sealing away of the entire Bible, and moved over into new heaven and new earth. We are in the kingdom of the Lord. Now, some people think we're not. I understand. When I look around and I say, my goodness, but you need to understand that, how many believes Jesus Christ was the kingdom of the Lord? I do. He was the kingdom, the stone cut out of the mountain, came here and has crushed all other kingdoms. But now let me help you out a little bit. Rome was still there, fighting Israel and ruling the world with all of their filth and everything else. The Greeks were still there in all of their knowledge and in all of their intellectualism, carrying the world into a lot of interpretation out of Christ. And you could just go on and on and on. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the lawyers, the scribes, the synagogues. Babylon was still there. I mean, they were everywhere. The Medes and Persians were still there. But the kingdom was here too. And Jesus dealt with that. He dealt with that. And that's what I want to talk about, is each time that those things happen, they moved into a greater earth. They moved into a greater unveiling of the earth. And we see this in new heaven and new earth. Humanity is the kingdom in earth now. There's no sin. Sin just meaning missing the mark. We are not missing the mark. Christ is leading and guiding everything. And we see this, he resurrected from the dead, and he's alive forevermore. The old kingdoms were crushed. Read Daniel 2, read Romans 8. I could just keep going on and on and on. The old kingdoms were crushed, and they are here no more. You're looking at shadows. You're looking at mirrors. You're looking at things that were crushed some of them centuries and centuries ago, and they will fade away. They will go away. The shadows will clear up. The sun will come out. It'll shine and it'll bring forth this light that we're talking about. But the first thing we have to do is declare it, declare that it's here. Isaiah 6:1. In the year that the king Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. And I've always said that King Uzziah, Israel, was a type of the United States. And Isaiah was a type of the prophet, William Branham. And when the United States died under Kennedy and under all of those things that was going on, William Branham, Isaiah 6, William Branham, saw the Lord high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. It filled the earth with his glory. The seals opened, people, and that was the open portal for the Spirit of the Lord to cover the earth. Listen to what he says. Above it stood seraphims. We know what seraphims are. They are angels of praising and shouting, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. Where did we move into? Where do you see that shouting? We'll look and see. And it stood, I seen the seraphims, each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his head, and with 2 he did fly. And one cried unto the other, and said, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, and the whole, not some people, the whole earth is filled with his glory. So we've seen King Uzziah die. We've seen him get shot in his chariot. We've seen him go down. We've seen Ahab get shot in his chariot. We've seen Elijah rapture up. We've seen all that happen, and went up in a fiery chariot out on in Texas. And we've seen it all happen. And Uzziah died, and Isaiah began to look, and Isaiah said, hey, something's changed here. This is what William Branham said. Hey, something's changed here. The same cycle's not going on. The entire Bible has ended. He said that. He said it's ended, it's closed up, the Second Testament done and put away. And he said, they cried to one another, holy, 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 for the whole earth is filled with his glory. There's not one nation anywhere that is not filled with his glory. Someone said, well, you just care about America. That's foolishness. I'm trying to open things up to you so you can see what's going on in the earth and how somebody has got to lead this thing through to where Christ is more focused than it's ever been. That's where I'm coming from. And he said that the post of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said, you know what smoke is? Rapture. Where's smoke go? Up. And what is smoke in the Old Testament? Rapture. So we see this. The post of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. The prophet brought the end, brought a greater place to be in. Then said I, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips. You begin to recognize that, hey, this is a great change, and I'm not speaking the things for the age that I should be speaking. And he said, and I dwell in the midst of a people of an unclean lips, for mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphims flew, put the coal on my tongue, changed my message, brought a new message, brought a new life. And that's what happened to us, which he had taken with his tongs from the fire, put them upon my mouth, and said, lo, this has touched thy lips, and your iniquity is taken away, and your sin is purged, it's gone, And I heard a voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who shall go for us? Then said I, Here am I, send me. This is the age, this is the time. And he said, Go and tell this people. And then he talks about what to tell them, that go and tell them, Hear ye indeed, but understand not. There was a whole transition where he told them and they understood not. And we came through a generation. Make the heart of this people fat, make their ears heavy. It's a Pentecostal age. It needs to end. Make them fat, make their ears heavy, shut their eyes, put them into total darkness, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and convert and be healed. Pentecostal age was supposed to go away. The Bible ends, we step into a new age. Then I said, Lord, how long? And he answered and said, Until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land that be utterly desolate. You say, well, that hasn't happened. Well, you haven't been watching very close. That's all I know to say. I don't know how much more desolate it can get. I don't know how many more cities are without inhabitant. They're going crazy. They're going insane. I don't even call them cities anymore. It is insane asylums when you go inside a city. Then said I, Lord, how long? And the Lord have removed men from far away, that there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. We saw that happening. We've seen a whole transition of it from the opening of those seals up until just a few years back after that generation ended. But yet in it shall be a tenth. A tenth is the blessing of the Lord. And it shall return and shall be eaten as a teal tree and as an oak. So don't think that it's all going to be destroyed. Don't think like, nothing can come out of this oak. We're in it. And we are bringing forth, and we are those that are returning, understanding. We're eating like the teal tree as an oak, whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves. So the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. We're here. We're not going anywhere. This is us. We are in this great Isaiah, the 6th chapter. He preached many times on it. Influence. Go read those books. Influence on another man. Influence. He was very clear of what was going on. Habakkuk. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters covers the sea. It's going on. And before the throne, there was a sea of glass. Revelation, John the Revelator, 4 and 6. Sea of glass, like unto crystal. And in the midst of the throne, think about Isaiah in the 6th chapter, and round about the throne there were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, the second like a calf, the third like a man, the fourth a flying eagle. And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, holy, holy. We just read it. Lord God Almighty, which was and which is to come. We have entered there again at the end of the church ages. We entered back. We come into a transition period where it laid waste, and everything, the inhabitants and everything else went into total darkness. And now we are returning and eating as the teal tree, and we are as the oak, and we are the holy seed which is coming forth. Haggai 2, verse 2, he says, Speak now to Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and the residue of the people. Speak to all the people here. Who is left among you that saw this house in her first glory? You know what house he's speaking of? He's speaking of the temple and Jerusalem. They were rebuilding Jerusalem, and then they were going to rebuild the temple. Who among you that saw this house in her first glory? And how do you see it now? Now you look back there and you see the house in its first glory. You see Jesus. You see from Adam all the way up to Enoch. You look back and you see from Enoch all the way up to Jesus. And you look at those 7 messengers and you say, oh my God, look at how beautiful that is. Who's left among you that saw this house in her first glory? I was in it. I was sitting under that prophet, watching, listening as a little boy. And he caught my attention. How do you see and know? Is it not your eyes in comparison of it as nothing? You kind of look and say, well, where did it all go? Yet now be strong. You say, it's just not like it used to be. I don't know about that. Now be strong, O Zerubbabel, saith the Lord. And be strong, O Joshua, son of Josedek, the high priest. And be strong, all you people of the land, saith the Lord. And work, for I am with you, saith the Lord of hosts, according to the word that I covenanted with you when we came out of Egypt. We had a covenant given to us when we came out of the church ages. It was an Abrahamic covenant. It was an unconditional covenant. And as I covenanted with you when you came out of those church ages, so my spirit remaineth among you. Fear ye not. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, yet once it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land. That's what the angel of the Lord told me close to 6 years ago now. He said that these 8 arenas, which we'll get into them in the next message, he said these 8 arenas, and I did go over them if you want to look at my last message just a couple of nights ago. And these 8 arenas are going to be shaken down. Everything in them is going to be shaken down. And I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the land. And I will shake all the nations, not just one. Someone said, oh, you're in trouble, Brother Parnell. You're sitting in the middle of the biggest judgment scene that ever was. This is going to happen. You're never going to rise again. You miss the fact that this is another day. It ended. All of that ended. We binge it. Look at the filth. Look at how low California. Look at how low Hollywood sinked into the ocean, into the filth of Babylon and ungodliness. I mean, it's just now being exposed, the ungodliness that's going on. We sunk as low as you can go. This is another day. This is another time. This is another move of the Spirit, and it's not in America. He said, I will shake all the nations. I will shake all the nations, and the desire of all the nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith the Lord of hosts. The silver is mine, the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than that of the former, saith the Lord of hosts. And in this place will I give peace, saith the Lord of hosts. We are sitting right here. How do you see it? Do you see anger and jealousy and strife? And do you see the inhabitants of the city who have made their ears fat, who have closed their eyes, who have become insane walking through the cities and all these things? Do you see all that? I see it all. But I also see, I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith the Lord of hosts. The silver is mine, the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts. The glory of this latter house, Christ back in the earth, in his fullness once again, like he was back there in one body. But the glory of this latter house shall be greater than that of the former, saith the Lord of hosts. And in this place will I give peace, saith the Lord of hosts. I don't know how else to say it. I see many nations rising up where their desire is to have the glory of the Lord back in their lives. I've seen nations that fall. I've seen nations that rise. I've watched our nation fall. I'm watching a revival moving in our nation now, which is raising it up. And I am believing that the desires are going to end up right there. And I see it in other nations. I see it raising up. I see it in so many nations that it's the same spirit, unless, of course, you think there's some rogue spirit out there that's doing something. I don't. It's the same spirit in every nation in their own way, in their own experience, with their own tentacles, with their own diversities, and with their own understanding, are going to come to the same place that every other nation comes, and that is a desire to fill this house, this earth, with his glory. That is what's going on right now. I love you. I hope that this has been a help, and we will continue looking at these things. And this is the greater earth unveiling itself. Love bless you. Lord Jesus, we come to you. We earnestly pray and trust and place our hearts on an open table. Move within us. Change anything in us, our hearts, our beings, anything. Give us a fleshly heart and take away the heart of stone. And let us see what you're doing and stand there in it and desire the glory of the Lord to touch every nation again. In your precious name we ask it. Heal our bodies, heal our communities, heal our nations. Heal us, Lord. Bring the focus back to Jesus Christ. Love bless. And I will see you the next time. Sunday night, 8:30 p.m.